Hi, class. We're going to talk about ratios and proportions today. And this is a very important concept because there's so many things in life that involve comparison between two or more quantities. And here are a few examples. So, for example, if you're comparing the ratio of teachers to students in a school, an example of for example, our school, the CK, when they write it like this, one column 25, what they mean is for every teacher, for every one teacher, there are 25 students. Okay, um, so we could write it like this, one column 25, or what I rather prefer to write is just write it as a fraction, 1 over 25. So always write it as a fraction, if whenever you can. Okay, so the next one says the ratio of, sugar to salt in a recipe is 2 to 3. So this 2 here would mean the amount of sugar that you need to apply. And I'm going to use a different color here. And the 3 here means that the amount of salt that you need to apply. So maybe for every spoonful of sugar, you need to apply 3. For every 2 spoonful of sugar, you need to apply 3 cups of salt, right? So just as before, we can write 2 to 3 as 2 over 3. Okay, so same thing. The ratio of number of soft drinks and its cost is 2 to 6. Okay, so the 2 here means is the number of soft drinks, and the cost here is 6. So what that means is if you buy 2 soft drinks, you're going to cost you $6. Okay, so we can write the ratio as 2 to 6 as 2 over 6. But this is an interesting one here because the number 2 to 6 can be reduced. If you divide this top number by 2 and divide the bottom number by 2, you're going to get 1 over 3. And what this is saying is that for every can of pop that you buy, it will cost you about $3. Okay, so this fraction 1 over 3 is called a fraction in lowest terms. Okay, all right. Let's look at a couple more examples of something called a proportion. A proportion is a statement that shows two equivalent ratios. So what we just saw there is if you have the fraction 2 over 6, that is equivalent to 1 over 3. Because if you divide the top number by 2, you get 1. And if you divide the bottom number by 2, you get 3. Right? But there are other equivalent fractions. For example, I can make the number 1 over 3 as 3 over 9. Because if we multiply the top number here by, let's use a different color, by 3, 1 multiplied by 3 is give you 3, and 3 multiplied by 3 will give you 9. So you can, as long as you multiply the top number and bottom number by the same thing, then the fraction or the ratio will be always equivalent. Okay, so there are tons of other examples here. So let's look at a few here. Okay, so here they want to determine whether each pair of ratios are equivalent. So basically they're asking us, are these two things the same? Okay, so let's write it as a fraction. So 24 over 16, this one is 3 over 2. Okay, so in order to know they're the same or not, what we have to do is make this smaller or make this bigger. Well, I notice that if I divide this by 8 and divide this by 8 here, 24 divided by 8 is 3, and 16 divided by 8 is 2. So it turns out that this and this is exactly the same thing. So the answer is yes here. Okay. The next one is 5 over 8 and 15 over 24. And I'll do this in a slightly different way. I mean, you can work with this fraction or this fraction. It doesn't really matter. But what I notice is that if you multiply this by 3 and multiply this by 3, 15 multiplied by 3, 5 multiplied by 3 is 15, and 8 multiplied by 3 is 24. And notice once again, these two numbers, these two fractions are the same. So again, the answer is yes here. Okay. The last one here, and this is a little interesting. So 36 over 60 and 30 over 70. Okay, so they look very different. So what we're going to do is going to make both of them smaller. Notice that the number 6 can go into top and bottom here, so we're going to divide the top bottom by 6. If you do that, you're going to get 6 over 10, right? So 60 divided by 6 is 10, 36 divided by 6 is 6. But notice here, what's the number that can go into both 30 and 70? Well, they both have a 0, so I'm going to divide the top bottom by 10. That will become 3, and 7 divided by 10 is 7. So 3 over 7. Okay, let's make this one a little bit more smaller. I notice I can make this go down to 2, divide this by 2, and you're going to get 3 over 5. Now, you can clearly see that 3 over 5 is not the same as 3 over 7, so the answer is no, they're not. So what we want to do is always try to reduce the fraction to its lowest term whenever we can. Okay? All right, so we're going to move on a little bit, and you're going to practice a little bit on this, and then look for the answers here. So I'm going to write it. So pause your video, and then whenever you can, check to see if you got the right answer. So equivalent fraction ratio for 3 over 8 could be 6 over 16. So remember, this is the same as 3 over 8. And 5 over 9, it could be, if you multiply it by 2, it will be 10 over 18. And this here, 12, if you divided 12 and 8 by, let's say, by 2, top and bottom, you're gonna get 6 over 4. Okay? And there are other possible answers, but these are just a few examples. Okay, write the two equivalent ratios. Okay, so we can write that as, let's say, 2 over 6. Okay, sorry, I forgot to write it this way. So 1 over 3 first, right? Here, I'll do that for this one too. 2 over 6. Or you can multiply by 3 and get 3 over 9, right? So the way I did that is I just multiplied this by 2 and multiply by 2 here to get here and there, right? And then, or you can instead multiply, the 1/3 by 3 to get 3 over 9. Okay? 6 over 9. Okay, so what we can do is we can divide this by, let's say, 3, divide this by 3, because you can go into each of them. So this becomes 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay. We can make another one here. Let's say we multiply this by any number you want. I'm going to multiply by 5. Okay, as long as you do the top and bottom. 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's another possibility here. Okay, last page there. Okay, so this is a bit. I'm going to do something called solving for the unknown variable here. So when they say unknown variable, they're talking about things like that, x or y. So variables like this. They're called unknowns because we don't know what they are. Okay, and I'll show you a very simple trick on how you can find them. So in order to find out the value of x here, what we have to do is something called cross multiply. So all you have to do is this. Take a calculator. We're going to multiply diagonally these two numbers here, 20 and 40. Okay, I'm going to write it down. So 20 times 40 is 800, okay, if you multiply. And then we're going to take this other number here, 8. That's the only number that's left, and divide it. Okay? And that is what the value of x would equal to. So if you do the math there, that would actually give you 100. Okay? So let's do a different one here. So here we're solving for y. Okay, so we write y is equal to, so again, type this into a calculator. So diagonally, the two numbers that you already know, so these two right here, okay, that you can go across diagonally, 33 times 10. We do that, you're going to get 330. And then you take the other number that's left over and divide it by 330. So, sorry, divide by 15. And if you do that, you're going to get y is equal to 22. Okay. I'm going to do one more that's a little bit different here. So I'm going to do these bottom two, and I'll leave these two, the other two for homework. So this one I can rewrite it as 10 over 7 equals to x over 35. Okay, so what you can do here is, if you're solving for x, you write x, which is what you're trying to solve. You look for diagonally across the two numbers you can multiply, so these two right there. Okay, there's always going to be a pair of numbers that you can multiply. Write down the answer when you multiply them, so make sure you're multiplying. So that would be 350, and then divided by the other number that's left over, which is 7. Okay, and I think you're going to get the answer here is, sorry, it's going to be 50, I believe. Okay. Okay, so just be very careful that when you're doing a ratio like this, write it as a fraction first. Okay, we're going to do one more here. So 2 over 5, we're just going to write it down. We're not doing anything special right now. 20 over y. Okay, so we're just turning these columns here to fractions here, like that. Okay, so we're ready to go. We're solving for y. Y is this guy here, so we're going to write y is equal to, I'm going to cross multiply. So which two can I multiply? Well, it has to be these two, okay, because they will both know. 5 times 20, which is 100. And then you're going to have to divide it by the only other number that's left over, which is 2. So divide it by 2. And you're going to get y is equal to 50. Okay? And I'm going to leave you to do it for the rest of these two questions, but I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer for this one is 5. The answer for this one here is going to be 6. Okay? Sorry about the long video, but good luck on solving proportions and ratios.